Alright, welcome all you costume questers. My name is Bob Loves Cheese, and this is the new and improved any percent tutorial for Costume Quest 2. Now, if you see on the leaderboard, there is a new game category and a new game plus. I'm just gonna ignore the new game plus. That's like the ugly little duckling of Costume Quests. It's a glitch. You don't need to know about that. If you do, I don't know. Most people run the new game category anyway. It's more fun, and it's just better, if I'm being honest. But you're gonna run the new game more than likely. But anyway, ignore that. So yeah, this is the tutorial. The other one is about 2 years old now, and it's quite outdated in several parts. So I kind of wanted to give you guys a new tutorial. Shout out to Echo Tree and Osmorn. I know Echo has done her first run now, like half hour ago actually, and Osmorn said that they wanted to run the game. So this is for you guys, but also for everybody else. It's funny, the last time I made the tutorials for Deathmaster and Harsh, who are now, not that it's a big community, but are like very prominent members of the community, and I made the tutorial for them. So now here we go, making it for the new generation, hopefully, if you guys stick around. And if you're watching this in 3 years and you don't know who any of those people are because they did one run and never showed up again, then ignore what I'm saying right now. But anyway, let's get back on the subject at hand. So Costume Quest 2, I'm sure you know a bit about the game. I don't need to explain that for you very much, but this tutorial, I'm mostly going to be just running through the game and just kind of explaining things as I do. It's not going to be super in-depth and high quality like my previous, or I guess my previous tutorial was also similar to how I'm going to do it here. Mostly just to explain what I'm doing, give some insight. I'm going to skip over the fights in this video, except for the boss fights. That's different, but like the regular fights, I'm going to skip over that, and maybe I'll make another tutorial video kind of going over the strats for each fight, things like that. Maybe I've said that before. I'll see if that happens. Maybe I'll have motivation this time. But yeah, so the main optimization in this game, outside of just learning the route, is using your specials as optimally as you can, which you'll learn over time, but there's also strats for that, but also the creepy treat cards. So very quickly before we start the run, I'm going to kind of just explain all the cards that we use when we get them. Well, obviously I'll show you when we get them throughout the run, but just a brief overview. So the first two we're going to get in the very first area of the game is Succums and Nubbins. So you'll use these, you'll use Succums a lot through the run, but Succums, you use Chosen Hero takes 2 turns. That doesn't fully explain what it does, actually, because say for example you have, like this setup here, Jefferson, Pumpkin, and Superhero. Say you have Jefferson use Succums on himself, then he's going to actually gain an extra turn rather than using him on somebody else. So every time you want to use Succums, you want to have whoever's using it use that card on themselves. There's one exception, which I'll get to in the run, but that's how you want to use Succums. You never want to use it on a different hero, always on the same one. And that's really all you need to know. It essentially just gives you an extra turn per fight, every time you use it. So it's pretty nice. It has a 1 battle cooldown, so you use it for 1 battle, it will have a cooldown for the next battle, and then we'll be ready again. So you can use it every other battle, which is pretty nice. Nubbins is the next card up. 2 times damage for 3 attacks. We're going to use this card in boss fights for the most part. You can use it in a couple regular fights, but it's just more difficult to kind of use it at a good time, so you only end up using it a handful of times throughout the run. This one has a 3 battle cooldown instead of the 1 that Succums has, so you can't use it as often, but it's there. Then you have Frostbites. Also, this is, I guess I'll explain where you get this from. You get this from the shop at the very start of the game, and then you get this from a chest that's guarded by a snail. Frostbites you get from the Chronoculus fight, the very first Chronoculus, so the first boss fight of the run, and it maxes out 1 hero special meter. This is also used for boss fights because you get this after the first trick-or-treating section, so it's not, obviously it can't be used there because it's, you get it afterwards, but it's pretty nice. We use it in the BoJimm fight. You can use it a lot in the Escort and Lab sections as well, so it's pretty nice. You have Sour Dumps. This is something we buy from Shady Shop after the BoJimm fight. Specifically, we buy it in downtown, and it does exactly what Frostbite does, except it has the effect of doing that on all 3 heroes instead of just 1. So you get to max out your special meter. This is used in a couple boss fights, used in Escort and Lab. You know, you just get all your specials back. Very nice. Then we have Peepers. So now, Peepers and Jellybeaks, these 2 cards, and also Smoochies as well, but mostly these 2 cards. I guess all 3 of them have to deal with RNG. So you're not going to be guaranteed to get these cards throughout a run. So you kind of have to improvise. Peepers and Jellybeaks you can get from any fight, starting from BoJimm to the very end of the game. And you want to have these 2 specifically for the Dr. White fight. We don't really have any strats that use them before that. It's really just for the final boss, which saves a good bit of time. Jellybeaks is more important than Peepers because you can use Nubbins in the place of Peepers if you don't get it. So it's not a huge deal, but Jellybeaks is very important. For Peepers, hero's attack does 3 times damage and returns 1 times damage to self. The reason we use this in the Dr. White fight is because if you use this on Jefferson, then it actually ignores that second part of the card, return 1 times damage to self. I guess there's some sort of damage cap where if you do too much damage with that attack, it just ignores that, so you end up doing no damage to yourself. So that's pretty nice. Jellybeaks reset cooldown on all the cards in your hand. Again, we also use this in the Dr. White fight, and it's very nice because then we could use Peepers again, and Sour Dumps is the other card we'll have with us, so we'll get to reuse that. And then the final card that we use in battle is Smoochies. Max all special meters after the win. It's essentially like Sour Dumps, except it's a bit more powerful because you don't need to, you know, have an extra attack after that or whatever. And what I mean by that is, like, Sour Dumps, if you want to have all your specials ready for the next fight with Sour Dumps, you've got to, you'll attack, but you have to leave somebody alive a little bit so you can use the card at the end of the fight. It makes more sense if you've kind of ran the game and kind of understand, but essentially you Smoochies, you just play the card at the start and you don't have to worry about it again. Sour Dumps, you kind of have to plan around it a little bit more. And Smoochies is the most powerful card in the game by far. It completely revamps Escort and Lab, the 2 kind of slower sections of the game. Completely revamps that. It is so important. But the unfortunate part is you can only get it dropped from 3 places. You can get it from BoJimm, Ophirion, and Krono. If you don't get it from those 3 places, you will not get it that run. I don't know why it's like that. There's a couple other places that you can get it just in the game specifically, but none of those places are places like enemies that will fight in the run. So it is what it is. It's very annoying, but Smoochies can save you minutes on your run. So eventually it gets to the point where you kind of need it to PB. Like, that's where I'm at in my runs. So if I, you know, for example, my PB right now is a 51-minute time. If I wanted to beat that, I pretty much need Smoochies. Like, it's kind of crazy. I could get like maybe a 30-second PB without it. There's some other mistakes, but it is so difficult to PB at my level with that. And eventually, if you run the game enough, you'll be there too. You'll be right with me. There is also one more card I'd like to point out, just so you kind of know what they all look like, and that is Ghost Munch. That is used for a duplicate quest at the start of the game. I'll point that out more when we get there. But just so you know, you need 2 of these cards to give to a kid, and he'll give you another card, which is unimportant. I believe it's Bubble Barf he gives you, actually. But what's more important is that you get 300 XP. And that'll help us be level 4 before we fight Krono for the first time. So I think that's all the setup I have for you. Obviously, there's some more information to go over. Oh yeah, there is one more thing. I guess 2 more things. To get the DLC costumes, because Robot and Pumpkin are not in the base game. They're technically not DLC, but we call them DLC. It's actually pre-order exclusives, and this game came out 11 years ago. So I guess closer to 10, but it sounds cooler if I say 11. So yeah, I don't think most people have this anymore, but it's actually fairly easy to do that. We have a tutorial made by Harsh, which I'll link in the description and put on the screen right now if I figure out how to do that. On a little tutorial how to edit your hex code of the game so you can get these costumes. One thing I will want to point out though, his tutorial is great and there's no issues with it, except for one thing which we didn't really think about till after that tutorial was made. When you are editing the hex code in his tutorial, you actually zero out every single one of the costumes, so you unlock every costume to be purchased from the shop. One change I would do is only zero out Robot and Pumpkin, because you don't need any others, and it's going to save you a little bit of time in menuing in the shop menu. But also, I have practice saves that I've created that you're able to use, which Harsh also has a tutorial on. But I have practice saves, and those saves only work if you just have these two characters unlocked. If you've already edited the hex code of your game, that's fine. Just delete it, like uninstall it from Steam or wherever you have it from. So you uninstall it and then reinstall it, so it'll be back to its original state. And then just go back and do exactly what you did the first time, except only zero out Robot and Pumpkin. So yeah, I think we're good. Let's go ahead and start the run. Okay, now that we're here on the title screen, this is where we start the run. So I'm also going to explain where I personally split in every single section of the game. And one last thing before we get started, I have taken the time to make sure I record every one of my golds, and I have them uploaded in a spreadsheet. That way, I've done this for all the games in Costume Quest, so it's not just my golds, but it's the community sum of best. It just happens that all of the best are my own. But if there is a time where this tutorial is outdated, the best way to figure out what the best strats are isn't necessarily to go watch a world record. That is a good way, but not everything in the world record is optimal, as I found out when having somebody watch my world record for strats. I would personally go and check out the community sum of best, which I'm going to have kind of a screenshot of right here, but also a link in the description. So you can go there and you can click on every individual split and see the fastest time that has been completed by a community member. That way you know what the fastest strats are. That gets updated, whenever there's a new one. So that is the most up-to-date way to look for new strats, like what the most optimal things are. And although that won't be explained, it's a lot easier to see what's optimal and then to be able to kind of ask questions about it from there. So now to stop rambling, this has been too long of an intro. You probably skipped through this. I'm gonna have timestamps for each split of the game that I would normally split at and the split times, and we'll just go from there. So timing starts as soon as you press A to start a new game here. We're gonna go ahead. I feel like I'm doing a marathon run. I'm gonna go ahead and do that in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so like I said, I'm not really gonna be explaining the fights again. That might be a different video, but it's gonna be too long to do that here, other than the bosses, of course, like I said earlier. But this starting section is fairly simple. I mean, just make sure you're holding down the sprint button at all times. Everybody uses controller, so I doubt you're using keyboard and mouse. There's no reason to have a mouse, but keyboard's terrible for this game. But yeah, just the left trigger. Another thing to note here is that in this Corva section, obviously I'm sure you know the difference between amazing and just the regular nice hits. You don't want to get amazings because it actually takes a little bit longer. That can, the Corvus kind of freezes for a moment. There's a bit of a slow animation compared to just getting a regular nice hit. We don't want to do that here because there's no point. Corvus doesn't take damage, so we don't need the extra damage. Same in the tutorial fight after this with the first enemies. You try not to go for amazings because there's no point. Another thing I'm not sure how too many people know about is, right there with the menuing, when I had my special ability, instead of using the joystick to kind of change my option, I use the D-pad because it's a lot more consistent. There's no snapback or anything, and you can also just press the button if you have to go over 1 or 2 times or something like that. So this is a tutorial fight. One thing to note, this little text here from Candy Corn, if you mash B, it'll save, I think it's a little under a second every time he does it, but actually I think it's close to like half a second, but that really adds up over the course of 5 or 6 times, whatever it is. So just something to note. Other than that, there's not really anything else here, so I think I'll just speed up this part. Okay, we're done with this section. So this is where I would split for the tutorial split. Now to move on to Monty's Gator stuff. I'm also going to point out in a moment here how to do animation canceling, because that becomes relevant with the clown costume really quick. So we have all 3 pieces here. Again, I'm not really going to explain most of like the, yeah, go here, do this, do this, do this. You can see me do that, but stuff that isn't necessarily obvious, then I will explain. But animation canceling. So what I mean by that is, well, I guess I can't switch yet. We'll go run over here. So when we are the clown costume, you see how, like, I'm holding left right now. And because I'm using the clown horn, I cannot move. You can interrupt this, like, little freeze animation thing by bashing with the pail. So this is me holding left, and then I stop, and it instantly cancels that. So I'm going to use that here. Again, it doesn't really do anything here. It's just mostly, like, if you accidentally do it. So if I, mastered this cutscene, then there you saw that, I didn't get stuck in place. I just got to move. Okay, so this is the setup phase. It's the combo split. The goal of this section is to get enough XP to go get combos, but we also have to do some other stuff before that. So we're going to go trick-or-treat some houses. They're always the same. So for example, this is always going to have an enemy. This will always have an enemy. This will always have candy. So we're going to go ahead and just go to a couple houses that give us candy, mostly because we need that to buy some things. We're also going to get all the pterodactyl costume pieces, because that's important for this early part, to be using the pterodactyl costume. It's another costume piece. Okay, we just need to get to level 3. That way we will unlock combos. Okay, one thing to note here, we do what's called a fountain warp. So I'll go run back over here and kind of explain it from the start. So there's these fountains everywhere. I'm sure you've seen them. I'm sure you know what they are, what they do. Kind of just as like a little save point. But what else it saves, rather than just the game, but also if you run away from a fight or lose a fight, you'll respawn at the last fountain you were nearby. You don't have to drink from it. Normally you'd heal from this. That's kind of the point. You also save there, but you don't have to. You don't have to save for this to be your respawn point. So as soon as you leave this portal at the very start, it sets this as your respawn point right over here. So that's very important. If we avoid the trigger for every other fountain in this area, then if we run away from a fight, we'll respawn at that one. So we have to go back there to talk to Corvus because we want to get combos. So what we're going to do, there's a fountain up here on our right. I'll get close enough so that you can see it. Yeah, right over there, top right corner. So we want to avoid that, the trigger for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick to the left side over here. Left side, and just kind of keep to the left over here. We don't want to accidentally trigger that. And if you do, it's not a big deal. You just, do the walk of shame. But it's fairly lenient. Just make sure you're kind of smart about it. So once you go through there, you're going to run up here to this lady. Talk to her a couple times. And then you'll run down here to this guy. Or make sure you don't go really too further left from here. She might trigger it. Again, it's fairly lenient, but you don't really want to take chances. So then once you go to this lady, you go talk to this door on the right. This is going to have more candy for you. And then you just slither your way up here, go to this other door. And then you go honk your horn at this guy. And then you'll go down here and talk to her again. Something to note is, you don't have to honk your horn at this part specifically. It's not actually something the game checks for. It does check for it in the jazz club. Checks for you to honk a single time. And then also the little dude in the devil costume. That one you also don't have to honk for. So now we've talked to them. We're gonna go run up to the top of this building to get the last costume piece for Pterodactyl. We haven't gotten the costume pattern yet, but we'll go run up here and we'll go in the jazz club. I'm not gonna make you watch the jazz club the whole time because it's like a minute and a half of cutscene. You get this, and then also normally, you'd jump over this, you'd land on that lower platform, and then you'd go out that little entrance and you just fall the rest of the way. If you kind of hug the right side, you'll actually just avoid that. So I'll show you. And you just fall all the way down. And you go in here and you talk to this guy. Remember, you have to be talking to him as Clown. If you talk to him as anybody else, which you shouldn't have switched costumes, you know, he'll get mad at you. But I'll go and just skip forward because you guys don't need to watch this. Okay, so now that I've finished this, we've reached level 3. We got one more thing to do, 2 more things to do before we go back to Corvus. So we're gonna run over here. Remember, kind of hang around the left side of the top part of that fountain. Gonna come over here, talk to Shady. Now we're gonna buy 3 things. We're gonna buy Succums, so just straight down. And then if you did what I told you to do, or what I suggested, and you just have the 2 costumes, then all you have to do is just go over to the next page and buy the first 2 things in this bottom row. So that's gonna be the pumpkin and the robot costume. You also need to switch back to the clown costume, and again, remember to stick to the left side over here, and then you're good. You don't really have to worry about fountains anymore, at least for right now. You're gonna come down, talk to this guy. What's this dude's name? Bub or something? He'll talk in a second. Let's see, what's his name? Is Bub. I'm so smart. I've played this game before. Anyway, again, you don't need to honk your horn, but it's a thing. What's nice is after you finish this little cutscene, you're going to be given the costume pattern, and because you have all the costume pieces for Pterodactyl, you're instantly going to be changed into that costume. And then you're going to need to use Pterodactyl in a second anyway, so it's very convenient. So you just master the text. So now we're Pterodactyl. Again, same thing with the clown with the animation cancel. If you accidentally get stuck and you do this on accident, because you can't move during it, it's quite slow. You can just cancel it by hitting X. So very nice. So you're gonna come down here. Watch out for this guy. If you're on the normal cycle and haven't been slowly explaining things, you should be fine. Don't have to worry about the crony that travels through this area. But you'll blow these leaves out of the way. This is where animation canceling is very nice, because as soon as you do this, you can just start moving again. So you don't have to worry about the whatever, the stall, the freeze or whatever. So there's my mouse. So this guy down here is guarding a chest. You do not have to fight the snail to get this chest. Depending on the cycle, honestly, this just seems random. Sometimes it's one of the few cycles that just kind of does its own thing for some reason. Sometimes it'll be going to the right, sometimes to the left. What you need to do here is just kind of see where he is right here. I would kind of wait over here and wait for him to turn around and then grab the chest, because this is a little bit close. Usually you can kind of take the safe. Usually I'll kind of sit on this right side and just wait. If he started like here and was going right, then I would come over the left, just come up behind him. But again, it's just reactionary. Just take the safe. You don't need to worry about it. But what you're going to do is you're going to, wait for the snail to kind of get out of the way, open the chest, and then right after you finish opening the chest, either the snail will see you or you will attack the snail on purpose. And then that's going to be our fountain warp. So again, I'm just going to kind of hang around here, wait for the snail to turn around, come open the chest, and then I'm going to smack the snails behind. So we don't need to fight the snail. Like I said, we got what we wanted out of there. That's the Nubbins card I mentioned earlier. We're just going to run away. And if I did everything correctly, this is a fountain warp, and we'll go right back to the starting area. See, right back at the start. So again, this was our default respawn point because of that fountain. And now we're going to go back in, and we're going to go talk to Corvus and get the combos. Combos being much faster because instead of doing 1 attack, you do 2 every turn. Okay, now that we're done with Corvus, we're going to go do our trick-or-treating. So we're going to fight a lot of battles here. Again, I'm going to kind of skip through each battle, but I do want to show you kind of the order and the route that you want to do for each of these. First things first, let's go and set up our party. So it's just going to be all in a line down here. So it's going to be Pumpkin, it's going to be Robot, and it's going to be Pterodactyl. This is important because of the type system in this game. Let's think it's... I know to show it here. Enemies are one of 3 types, either monster, tech, or magic. In this area, there's no magic enemies, so we don't need to worry about that. Superhero is strong to magic, but because there's no magic enemies in this first area, we have these 3 instead. So we got Pumpkin, who's strong to monster, weak to tech. We've got Robot, who's strong to tech, weak to magic. And then Pterodactyl, also strong to monster, weak to tech. So Pumpkin and Pterodactyl are going to be the ones focusing on monster enemies, and then Robot will be focusing on tech. Although, one thing to note, the general strategy in battles, I guess I'll show you the first one. But the general strategy in battles is to pick one enemy to start with, and just everybody focus that enemy. There's no need to spread damage around. Okay, this is a terrible example because there's only one enemy, but if there were multiple, I would just pick one guy and then just focus him. There's no, like I said, there's no magic enemies in this area, so any healers don't exist here because they're all magic. So if there were healers, that's the one you always want to focus. Doesn't matter if you have nobody in your party that is strong to magic, you want to get those healers out of there because they can heal and do other stuff that'll just mess you over. I also just want to see. Okay, so you see I got Fruit Flakes as a card drop. Unimportant, but that's getting the card drop Ghost Months, like I mentioned earlier, is important. You need to get it twice. So I'll go ahead and just kind of cut around. So this is the next fight you go to. It's this house right here. So I'll probably just skip through to show you all the fights. You don't need to watch me kill all these enemies. Okay, there we go. Got Ghost Munch. So that's one of them. We need to get it twice. And I'll show you why in a minute. But once you're done with that fight, you'll come down here. Just get candy from this house. Something to note is if you do this correctly, you don't really need to heal at all. So like you see in the bottom left, you can eat 25 candy to heal to full health. You don't really need to do that more than like once. So don't do that after every fight. Do that when you absolutely have to, because we do need to buy something later. But this is the next fight, so I'll go and just skip forward to when I'm done with this. Because now that I'm done with that fight, we'll go run over here and go to the next fight, which hopefully will give us Ghost Munch. Okay, now that we're done with that one, just go to the next house. Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, and you can see there we got Ghost Munch from that one, so no need to worry about it anymore. We only had one more chance after that to get Ghost Munch, so good that we got it there. So then we got these 3 houses with candy, and then one more in this area with a fight, which is right here. Okay, now we're done with this fight. So we'll go and talk to this kid. So this is the reason we needed both of those Ghost Munches, is because he has a quest for us. If we give him our extra Ghost Munch card, he'll give us a card, but more importantly, he'll give us 300 XP. And we need that to get to level 4 before Chronoculus. So if you don't get Ghost Munch from either one of those, or if you don't get the 2 Ghost Munches from any of those fights, you should get one, but if you don't get the second one, then whenever you do end up getting it, just go ahead and, you know, march yourself back, walk of shame all the way over there, and, you know, deal with the consequences of time loss, because you definitely need that before you fight Chronoculus. There's not really a way around it. And I will say, even though I've been doing this just as an example, the RNG of this has been incredible. I think I had 4 fights with one enemy. That is unfair that I'm getting this right now. But this is the last fight in this area, so this is when I would normally split for the first circuitry split for the Bayou section. And now we're gonna run up here, and you notice all 3 of my special meters are full. That's because it makes this next section go very quickly. And just like earlier with the avoiding the fountain trigger, we're gonna do that again. So make sure you just stay up on the left side. We're also gonna switch costumes. So the reason we didn't use superhero in that first area is because there were no magic enemies there. In these 3 fights, there are magic, or there can be magic enemies at least. So I'm gonna switch out Pterodactyl. I'm gonna put in place superhero, and I'm also gonna kind of explain how I go through these fights, just because there's not a whole lot of variance. So here, you want to use all 3 of your specials between this fight and the next one, and then not after that. Another point is you didn't see this Nubbins card. You do not want to use this in this area, or else it will not be ready for the Chronoculus fight. So what I'm going to do first is I will always, no matter what enemies I'm facing, right here I will use Pumpkin Special. And then depending on if there's a magic or if there's a tech enemy, I will then use robots or superheroes. If there's a tech enemy, I will use Robot Special on the tech enemy. If there's magic, I will save robots and then use superheroes on the magic enemy. So we're going to go and do that here. Unfortunately, I think it's a little bit low, or a little bit too much health there, so I'm going to go and just attack. From this point on, we really want to try to maximize, you know, because you barely get your specials back. So it's very, very close that you're able to do so. So I will also eat after this if I'm not doing great on health, just to point out. So we're gonna go this next house. This is when I will use superhero special. Fortunately, it's not gonna help a ton. So I'm gonna go and just focus this guy. But again, you want to make sure you use your specials at latest this fight. You can really only use one here. So something to point out that I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna use Suckums on myself here as superhero. So superhero is gonna get, you know, 2 turns. I guess 2 more turns, but 1 more overall. We're gonna use that special. We want to use the special first, because then after you use the special, you can start gaining on your special meter again. So that's why we specifically do that. And then you're just gonna finish out the fight. So that one's not too bad. Before the Kronoculus fight, because you have this fight, you have 1 more fight, and then you fight Kronoculus. You want to make sure you have all 3 of your specials if you can. If you don't, if you have the first and the third, that's fine. But really, it's you need at least 2 of them, and they really have to be the first and third specials. That's weird. We got the same enemy every time. So, for example, Robot is the second special, or second hero here. It's not super important that Robot special is fully back, but we do need superheroes. So, if you have to kind of do less damage in a hit or something just to slow down, like I did there, just so enemies don't die, so they can, you know, you can get more hits out. You also kind of need some RNG here with what enemies attack who. So I got kind of lucky there that the machinist attacked Monty, our superhero. And I'm gonna do a little whoops attack. Hopefully superhero gets attacked here. Another weak sauce on Robot would be nice. I guess it's kind of a waste. If you don't get the specials back, it's okay. So like that's very close, and that's going to be fine because we'll end up doing 1 hit before the special in the fight. So I'll end up being okay. But once we're done with that fight, then we get taken back here, and we have to run up here. You should be level 4 now. Should have just gotten it. And because of that, you shouldn't need to heal anymore. You're going to run up here, use the pterodactyl, and we're going to make sure you switch back. Then we're going to run over here and talk to Shady. We're going to buy the upgrade for superhero, which is 1,000 candy. And then we're going to run over here. Again, make sure you kind of stay out of the way of the fountain, just in case. But before we go into the next fight, you know, obviously we got to do some little cleanup stuff here. But make sure you have your characters in this order. You know, Pumpkin, then Robot, then Superhero. And then also you should have your cards. The third card doesn't matter, but Nubbins and Succumb should have already been equipped, so you shouldn't have to change anything there. But in case you did move them for some reason, go and make sure they're ready. Another thing here, you don't need to worry about the enemies. If you just follow this line, just kind of hold right slightly up, you're good. You won't have to worry about that because the cycle will always be the same. Just kind of like the slight curve up and around, and you're good. So this is the first boss fight of the run, Kronoculus. Nothing to worry about a whole lot. Mostly just make sure that you follow along exactly, right? If you follow along exactly, you won't have any problems. And if you have your specials ready, you're good. So I'm gonna talk to these people. I'm just gonna explain as I go how we get through this fight. So first things first, we're going to use Pumpkin Special, and that is going to immediately cut Kronoculus's health in half. Very nice. Then as Robot, we're going to use Nubbins on Superhero. And then this is the one slight variance in the fight. If you get an amazing here, the fight finishes a little bit faster. If you don't, it's going to be a little bit slower, but it's not a big deal. Okay, I got a regular hit, so a little bit slower. not a big deal. I believe my PB is that you do also run the risk of getting one of your heroes frozen. And you don't want to worry about that, hopefully. But now after this, we'll get Kronoculus to bring out his clock. And then with Robot, use Succums on Superhero. I guess it's not entirely important to do that, but because we're in the slower cycle, but do it for consistency's sake anyway. Then you'll make sure you target the clock, use your special. That's going to take it out of 6 health. And then just kind of do just a whoops hit just to get through it quickly. Kronoculus will do one more hit on somebody. And then just spam through another hit. And then you will defeat Kronoculus. And you also get frostbites, and then this is where I would split for this section. And then you'll go run down here, run into this enemy, and you should be taken all the way back to the start once you run away. As long as you avoided the trigger for that fountain, get to another fountain warp. So here, you actually need to hold up left because the cutscene trigger is right at the start of that bridge there. So hold up left and then you start the cutscene. So then there's a lot of mashing to do, a lot of text, a lot of, I guess you need to raise your hand here. There's cutscenes, just a lot of stuff. Okay, I'm gonna head and skip through all of that cutscene and dialogue stuff. So now we're gonna just run around and grab the costume pieces. A little note here, you can actually grab the chest from the front, so you don't have to run around the back. But other than that, there's not really a whole lot of optimization here. We gotta get 3 costume pieces. Just gonna go run all these rooms here. And we'll go ahead and continue on to the next section of the game. And we're gonna get the Jefferson costume. Now, normally with Jefferson, you have to use diplomacy, or you have to talk to somebody, and then you're able to use diplomacy on them. But for whatever reason, this guy, you can just straight up use diplomacy without having to speak to him first. So it's a tiny optimization there. But, you know, that's something. So now we're going to be fighting BoJimm. So we're going to switch to Pterodactyl in the first slot, Pumpkin in the second, and then Superhero in the third. And you're also going to want to make sure you equip Frostbites. At this point, you should have used Nubbins and Succums in the previous fight. So use Frostbites on whatever the other card is. Just because you're going to use Nubbins and Succums later, but you're never going to use whatever that third card is. So just so you have it already in the inventory. I'm gonna run down here and fight BoJimm. Now there's a couple setups for this fight of like how you would start out. See, normally you'd have Pumpkin have his special already, but he doesn't, which is fine. But it's just gonna be a little bit different of a strat. If he does, you're gonna just use the special as soon as you can. Have Superhero use Frostbites on him, and then use special again. But we don't have that, so we're just gonna attack normally. Pretty slow fight, to be honest. The one thing you're looking for, though, is for Pterodactyl to get his special back, because the very next fight in the run is a boss fight. After this fight, it's Ophirion. We don't fight anything until then, with all the skips that we do. You know, as a beginner, you'll probably end up fighting more than that, but you don't really have a chance to build up your special meter at all. So we want to have Pterodactyl special be full by the end of this fight. Sometimes, depending on how quick your Kronoculus fight, you're not going to have as much of a special meter. You're going to want to make sure that Superhero is the one that uses Frostbite on Pumpkin. That way, Pterodactyl can continue to build up his special meter. Because if you have him use the card, then that's one less attack for him. It doesn't really matter. So now Pterodactyl special is full. We're going to not use that. Again, we're going to save that. And we're going to instead use Pumpkins. The other two doesn't matter. It's fine if they don't have special, because we'll end up using Sour Dumps in the Ophirion fight. So it didn't actually matter. The only one that matters for is the first one. So we're almost done here. And then, as I kind of mentioned at the start of the run, this is where you could start getting some of the useful cards from enemy drops. Those being Peepers, Jellybeaks, Smoochies, and... Actually, no, just those 3. I don't know why I thought there was 4. Smoochies you can only get from the first 3 boss fights, but all the other ones you can get, or the 2 other ones you can get from any fight until the end of the game. So I'll kind of explain those as they go. In this run, I might not get any of the cards I need to, and I'm just going to explain how you do that without that. So this is when I would split for the principal BoJimm split, whenever the fight's done. And we're going to go collect some hide and seek kits. Now, if there's any route change that I could see happening, it's that we would route that out. The testing of it is... The reason we do it, we used to do it because it gave us XP. Now we don't need that XP. The reason we still do it is because they're not that far out of the way, and it also increases your damage by a little bit. Optimally, it probably isn't useful, but it's just kind of nice to have. And again, it's not that far out of the way. So instead of going over to the leaf pile on the left, we're going to go run over here. And again, every time I'm blowing the leaves out of the way, I am animation canceling by hitting X. And here's another thing. Sometimes you have to wait for things to get out of the way. So the leaves here, you blow it away, you gotta wait for a second. While I wait for a second, I'm gonna switch to the next costume that I need, which is Jefferson. So, you know, while I had that little bit of downtime, it saves me some time. So, run over here. No diplomacy on this guy, but you do have to use diplomacy on Sadie here. Okay. And before we go up, this whole section is very cycle-based. And because I'm going to be explaining things, the cycle is going to be very messed up. So if you want to see an accurate cycle, go watch the world record or the community summit best, my gold for that. That's going to have the better cycle. But just kind of take note of that. So first things first, just ignore the kid on the left. And we're going to run over to this house. And then we'll run over to this one. And we will do our first wall ride of the run. Now, if there's anything that you might need to practice before the run starts, it's the wall rides. Or you could just go into it without anything. But wall rides, you know, because we sprint around with the skates on our feet, you can kind of just shove yourself between two objects. So like a wall and this tree here. And if you get the right angle, you will just glide up. Sometimes it's a little finicky. It's not really that difficult. And then you can just go over. We're going to grab this chest. We're going to do another one. This one's pretty easy. But you do need to make sure that the snail does not get in the way. So we're good there. And then go and blow the leaves out of the way. Sadie, this is where I'm talking about with the cycle. Normally this guy would not be in the way, but because we took a little bit longer and I had to explain some things, he's in the way. So again, go look at that world record for an accurate cycle of what this looks like, or the summer best. So they're gonna run down here, get this house, and this will be the last one. We're gonna get another kid down here, and then there's another cycle that probably is gonna be messed up. If you do get here late and you don't see, wait until you see him moving. If you get here with the late cycle, just because you don't really know when he's gonna turn around. But luckily, I got there right before he moved, so I didn't have to wait very long. So now we've gotten all the costume pieces. And we're going to go run over here and talk to this fella. No, this is the old Auburn Pines split. We're not done yet. The other two splits, it ends when you go back in the sewers, but this one does not. This one ends when you go to the next section of the sewers. So run over here, try to be fast and you just run into that. But we go ahead to east side, which is the fastest split in the run, I believe. 90 seconds just about at its absolute fastest. Go run here. And then we're gonna go run up here, and now the fade out is when the split ends. So you'll run over here, talk to this guy, use diplomacy on him. Then run up here, and we're gonna do another wall ride. Again, over time you'll just kind of get better at these, but you kind of just shove yourself into the wall. Having a very bad example. There we go. Okay, and then go talk to this guy. Use diplomacy on him, and then switch to pterodactyl. You need to blow the leaves out of the way, and if you animation cancel, you can actually run over here and talk to this kid before the leaves are blown out of the way. So that's pretty nice. Then we'll run down here, blow these leaves out of the way, switch back to Jefferson. You don't need to talk to this guy with diplomacy, you just talk to him normally. And now this is the hardest wall ride in the run. So there's a little, you can kind of just get between this chest and the wall. I made it look very easy there. It is painful sometimes. Sometimes it just doesn't want to work and you got to back out and just run into the wall again. The goal is to land on top of the chest. So if you continue to hold forward, it's very easy to fall off the side over here. But you want to, make sure you stop holding forward when you get on top and just kind of slowly inch your way over here and open the chest. If you do fall off the other side and go in that little corner there, you can open the chest still, but you can't get out without activating the mole. It's called mole skip, by the way. So if you do manage to get across and you fall off, open the chest and attack the mole and just run away from the fight. You don't need to deal with him. And then to be safe, you're just gonna kind of go back over here and just walk around, take a little bit of a long route there. So that's mole skip. Not too difficult to do, very difficult to do quickly. If you have trouble with that, don't worry about that. You can also just fight the mole as a beginner. It's not a huge deal. We'll just run over here to this next house, and this is a little strat that I found accidentally. Normally with diplomacy, you'll use diplomacy on somebody and you can, even though they're disappearing when the dialogue's done, you can actually talk to them again and you'll be frozen in place. But if you mash through the text the exact number of text boxes there are, you can freely move while the screen is fading away, and it gives you just enough time to mash your face into the corner and talk to this house here. So it saves a couple seconds. I'll see if I can get it. So we'll talk to this guy normally. Okay, so see there, I actually talked to the house before he was done with that, so it saves a little bit of time. If you don't understand what I just did there, it's fine. You'll understand it at some point, but don't worry about that as a beginner. This is more of a strat you do when you kind of start getting comfortable with the game. So we'll run up here. This is the last costume piece for the Pharaoh costume. And we're also gonna go down here. Make sure you watch out for the mole again. So I like to hug this right side here of this little platform and then kind of hold right, so that way you don't get hit by the mole. And the split ends when you go back down in the sewers. You come talk to this guy and then swing across. You're gonna talk to this kid over here. And then this is another thing that I talked about earlier, like you're kind of stuck here. So just go and switch to Jefferson while you're waiting for the door to open. Talk to this guy with diplomacy, and then we're gonna go up the stairs. Now we need to go buy something from Shady. So we're gonna use diplomacy on him so we can get a little bit of a discount. So make sure you do that before talking to him. We're gonna buy the Sour Dumps card, and then that's all we need to buy from him for right now. We gotta buy one more thing before the end of the run, but don't need to worry about anything else for now. This whole area is kind of based on a cycle of one enemy. It used to be a lot worse, but now we have a skip to kind of skip the second part of the cycle. It'll make sense in a minute. But just go ahead and run up here, talk to this guy, and then there's gonna be an enemy right here. So this is the guy we're kind of waiting on. We don't want to fight this guy. We'll run down here, get this house, trick or treat here, and then we're gonna run up. And we'll just follow the dude. I'd like to point out there's two ways to kind of skip past this guy. One way is a lot more difficult, which I would not recommend for beginners. The other way is a lot easier, but it's a little slower. So I'm gonna just explain. So you wait until this guy's done walking, and then, okay, watch my mouse. You can kind of see this corner here. Kind of just stick to this corner. I saw Echo in her run yesterday kind of went at a straight line right here, and so the guy was able to see because she went a straight line. If you kind of just hug this corner and just go around that way, then you'll be able to avoid him. But then the other way is just to go around here. So I'm just going to show you the normal beginner way. Just run over here. You can even wait right in front of him here, and then as soon as he's turned around, you'll just run across. And I think, does that mess up the cycle here? I don't, yeah, it does. It's a little slower here. If you do the faster cycle, you don't have to wait for this guy. But again, I would not recommend that as a beginner. It's just too easy to get caught. It's kind of tricky. If you need any tips on how to do that, let me know. I could probably help you out, or just watch my PB. I do that strat there. But now there's two different strats here. So we'll talk to this guy. use diplomacy on them. So we need to go over here, talk to this guy. It's just a clown. Talk to this guy. And then use the horn on him. Okay, so now there's two different routes. There's one that skips that cycle that I was talking about, which I'm going to show here. There's also, I guess, the more beginner-friendly thing where you don't have to do the wall ride to skip anything. But I'll go ahead and explain both here and just show one. So if you're going to do the beginner strat, you'll run up here, you'll get this house, and then you'll just run back. If you're going to do the, I guess, the more advanced strat, the wall ride, the skip, you'll just go straight from this guy and you'll run over here. And this is where you would go with the beginner route anyway. You'd run back over here. And then since the beginner route has already gotten that last house, you're just going to swing down here and then you'll just run back. You'll wait for that guy in his, cycle of walking back. Wait till you sneak behind him and you get out. If you don't want to do that, save yourself. I think it saves like 20 seconds, 30 seconds. I don't really remember. You'll run over here and you'll go to this house now after that. And then you're going to switch to go to audio video, go to advanced, and then turn off 30 hertz. So this is essentially going to make the game run at 30 FPS. See the FPS a lot worse. And you could do a wall ride up this. It's not too difficult. You're almost just you're holding a lot further right than you think. You're almost like parallel to that wall there that you're climbing up. This is not possible on 60 FPS. For whatever reason, 30 FPS changes the physics a little bit. But we don't always want to run. So it makes all wall rides easier, but you don't want to run in 30 FPS because it drops a lot of inputs. It's terrible. But you can if it just, this moment here. So that one's one you're probably going to have to practice as well. It's not exactly the easiest one. It's probably the second most difficult outside of the mole skip. Then you just kind of walk on this, and then you just get to fall all the way down. And then once you're falling, go back to audio, video, advanced, and then turn 30 or 60 hertz back on. And then you'll run up here to this guy, because you're back at the start. You talk to him, and then you get out of here. And then run down here, and then split ends when you enter the sewers. Okay, now that we've entered the sewers, it's time for Ophirion. You gotta talk to this guy one last time, and then we're gonna make sure we equip sour dumps. So just put it in first slot. You want to make sure you have sour dumps and succums equipped. Just kind of talk about in a minute. And then your party battle, whatever your setup is going to be pumpkin, and then Jefferson and superhero. So again, you want sour dumps and succums, and then pumpkin, Jefferson, superhero. So enter the door. Skip through some cutscenes. So this is why we wanted to have you have pumpkin special ready, because he's going to be first. Another thing to note, you're not going to lose this fight, but you can have one of your heroes die if Ophirion just decides to focus somebody like Jefferson, which is unfortunate but possible. It could happen. So now here, so we use pumpkin special first, and then we're going to go ahead and use succums on Jefferson, so he'll get 2 more turns. And then we'll use sour dumps, and then he's going to go ahead and just use his special. So a lot of things to do right in a row there. Make sure you take notes, write it down, whatever you need to do to help you remember. And then we have superhero special, but we are not going to use that. So we're just going to attack normal. And that's because we have one more fight after this that's very quick. And then we have another boss fight. So we want to make sure all of our specials are ready for that boss fight. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes you only end up getting 3 or 2 out of the 3. And in that case, you can kind of work around it. It's fine. But you want to get as much damage out with Pumpkin and Jefferson as possible after they've used their specials, just so they can get their special meters built all the way back up. Again, it's a little tricky. Sometimes you have to work around it, but usually it's okay. There are 2 different strats. So now at this point, Jefferson, depending on how much damage he takes here, he could die with another hit, which is just, it's a little bit unfortunate. It's also unfortunate they can't really build a special meter up any more than what it is. other than attacking normally. He's not going to get any more from defense. I think he technically can survive another attack, but it's just unlikely. Let's see who he's going to attack. Okay, good. He attacks Pumpkin. You really want him to both get hit 1 or 2 times, just so their special meters are built up a good bit. They'll both have one more, or after this one, now they'll both have one more attack. So Jefferson will go one more time, and Pumpkin will go one more time. So it doesn't really matter if Jefferson gets hit here. He'll gain a little bit of his special meter back, but it doesn't matter if he dies because he's not going to get another attack. Okay, now he attacks Superhero. Does not matter. Again, this is just kind of a slow fight. There's not a whole lot to do to optimize it. And now they're about at the same, so it's going to be a little bit close, but it should be fun. And I got peepers from there, and then that's when I'd split for this fight. So coming up, we're doing probably the hardest strat in the run, nail skip. Another strat, you know, like I said, when you're waiting for the pile of trash to blow away, switch to wizard just because you're kind of waiting anyway. So we're just going to run down here. So snail skip has 2 different, I guess, strats, 2 different variations. I'm only going to explain one because I don't even go for the other one in PBs because it's kind of just too close. But I'll go ahead and just run through, just kind of look what I'm doing, and I'll explain when I get over to the snail. So there's 2 costume pieces. We're gonna just avoid one of them. I'm gonna grab this one, and like I said, just ignore that other one we're gonna pass over here. We're gonna go straight to the snail. I do have a tutorial for this, so I'm not going to explain it too in depth, but essentially the snail is going to turn around at a specific point that you're looking for. You want to use wizard to walk forward slowly, and then you're going to pause buffer until the snail turns around. And there we go. Again, I'm not explaining it a whole lot here because I do have a tutorial for it, so you can go ahead and go watch that if you want. Oops. Oh, I'm short on candy. Oh, this is embarrassing. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Okay, if you're ever short on candy, there's a thing over here. I don't really know why I'm short on candy. Okay, ignore that. That didn't happen. But we're gonna go buy the Jefferson costume upgrade, and then we're gonna go run over here and get the last piece of the ghost costume. And we're gonna fight one enemy, and then we'll fight Ophirion. Not Ophirion, we just fought him. Kronoculus for the 2nd time. It's weird that there's a boss free fight in this game. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but he's also trash. So we're going to use this setup for this fight. Specifically, we want wizard in the 2nd slot. Again, this isn't the boss, this is just a regular enemy. And that's because of this right here. So you can one-shot this Grubbin operative here, but it's a little bit difficult. You can get him down really low, but if you use Jefferson in a combination of wizard will just do enough splash damage to take him out. So it looks like we'll be good on our specials here, which is very fortunate. They'll both have one more attack, so that's what we like to see. And then we will fight our good old friend Kronoculus for the 2nd time in the run. And again, I'll go ahead and link that nail skip tutorial in the description so you can watch that. Okay, so for this fight, again, there's 2 variations. I'm going to explain the optimal one and the one that we're doing in this route, in this run. If you have questions about what the other one is, you can ask me, but that essentially has to do if you don't have all 3 of your specials. So we'll go explain this. We got nubbins, frostbite, and succums are already active, so we're just going to add nubbins to our setup here. And we'll have Jefferson first, Superhero second, and Pumpkin third. And again, all 3 of our specials should be ready. So then we're going to go ahead and just hit the TV screen and start the fight. You can get unlucky here, Kronoculus, because he doesn't have the clock anymore. He can freeze you, which is very annoying, but we're just going to hope that doesn't happen. So right off the bat, use nubbins on Superhero, and then we're going to use her special here. It's going to do a lot of damage. And then we're also going to use Pumpkin special. I'm really hoping that he doesn't freeze, so I don't have to explain anything. Okay, we're good. Yeah, if he freezes, you're just kind of screwed. There's no way around it. I'm going to be honest. And then use Frostbites on Superhero as Jefferson. Use your special again. And then just use a normal attack by Pumpkin. We're going to be saving that Jefferson special for the Escort section because the first Escort fight is pretty slow. But if you have a special to kind of deal with them faster, then it's pretty nice. So just a normal attack here. We didn't get frozen at all, so it's very fortunate. My world record got frozen twice and I lost 50 seconds. And I'm still salty about that. But now the fight's over. Very quick, very easy. Just follow exactly what I did. No smoochies, so I will not get to show you smoochie strats in this run. I would like to point out, I'll also link this in the description. I have a, I believe it's a document of my Escort and lab strats if I do have smoochies. If you have smoochies, I have like an exact route of like when to use your specials and when to use your cards and all that stuff. It's very optimal and it saves you like 2 or 3 minutes. If you don't get smoochies, it's just kind of like just wing it. So I can't really help you a whole lot, I'm gonna be honest, but I will help you a little bit at the start here. When you start the first fight, because you have your first special available, you'll have, I would put Pumpkin in the first slot just because it does the most amount of damage. And we'll go ahead and I'll go and just skip through the fight, and I'll explain things between fights, but I'll just kind of skip through the fights themselves. Okay, I'm finished with the first fight. And just to note, you can eat as much as you want here. There's nothing else we have to buy for the rest of the run, so eat after every fight. There's no reason not to. So once we finish with that first fight, we can keep the same order here, but now you should have Sour Dumps is ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and equip that. And what I would normally do, honestly, it depends. So I'm not gonna give you like a concrete, like this is what you have to do. But what I would do is I would use it at the start of the fight and then use 1 or 2 specials depending on whatever you're facing, and then save it for the next fight so you can use 1 or 2. But again, it's a lot of just improvisation. There's not really anything optimized, so just kind of do what you think is right. Over time you'll kind of learn what works better, and then if you have smoochies, just follow my guide that I have. The little, again, it's not like a video, but a little sheet I have that kind of explains my thought process and what I do. But just go ahead and go with that. Okay, I'm done with fight number 2 now. Something else I did forget to mention is Pumpkin and Superhero have very good specials. Jefferson's is not as good, and the reason I say that, he does a lot of damage, but it's single enemy damage. So Superhero does a lot of damage. It does a lot of damage to one person and then does splash damage, which you can combine with like Nubbins or Peepers to do a lot of damage. And then Pumpkin just does half health to everybody. So I would personally use, avoid using Jefferson's special. Like for example, right now, Jefferson's special is ready. So what I'm going to do is going to switch Jefferson and turn it into Superhero. So now Superhero has a special that's ready, and it just kind of works out better. So head over to the next fight, go up the top side here, because if you go to the bottom, there's some dialogue, so you kind of stop in place, and you could also sneak up behind this guy to hit him. And this fight, Frostbites is ready, so if you want to, you can use it here. It's not like a thing you have to do, but just kind of take note that there's 1 fight here, there's 2 more after this, so you kind of want to make sure, at the very least, your first 2 specials are ready before you get into lab. So just kind of take note of that, you know, kind of be smart about it. That's just kind of the general strat, is just have your first 2 specials ready before lab. Okay, now that I'm done with that, we'll just go ahead and move on to the next one. I don't think there's anything more to say, just go to the next guy. Okay, now on to the last fight. You kind of just check on your cards what you have, just kind of keep note of it. We'll have Sour Dumps for the next fight. And yeah, remember, we want the first 2 specials ready. So okay, now we're done with the last Escort fight, so we're just gonna hold right here and go into the lab. So I'm gonna run down here. You don't have to use Ghost to avoid this guy. If you just hug the bottom wall, use Ghost to get in, and then we're gonna have our setup be Pumpkin, Superhero, and Jefferson. Again, this area is a lot faster if you have smoochies, because then you don't have to worry about getting your specials back. You can just use them as much as you can. But the starting 2 fights do have actual strats, so make sure you have Sour Dumps equipped, and that's really all you need. So I'll explain this fight, because again, there's actual strat for it. It doesn't really matter what setup you get here, it's always going to be about the same. So go and use Pumpkin Special, and then use Superhero Special, and then hopefully, yeah, you'll be able to take out both Chemists. Again, magic enemies, if you see them, focus them. They will kill you, especially in the lab. It is so easy to die if they just gang up on you. So now we're going to go ahead and use Sour Dump so we can get all of our specials back. Don't use any because the fight's almost over, so we'll save it for the next fight. And then that'll, you know, this fight's pretty quick, and if you have all your specials set up and Sour Dumps is ready, then this fight's always going to be pretty quick. So good there. And then we're going to grab our key card there. Again, use Ghost to get out. Eat because we can avoid that guy, and we keep the same setup here. And we also have Frostbites, which we don't have to use, but it is something. Another thing to take note of, do you have peepers? I have peepers. I don't have jelly beaks, which is a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. Maybe, hopefully I can get it so I can actually show you the proper lab strats. If not, I might cheat a little bit. Do some splicing, but I have peepers, so I can use nubbins as much as I want. You only have one opportunity to use it in here, but I'll take the opportunity either in this fight or in the next one. So go and just fight this guy. So again, it's the exact same strat. You're going to use Superhero or Pumpkin Special, and then Superhero Special on the, make sure it's on the magic enemy, and then just attack whoever you want with Jefferson. And so because I don't have jelly beaks normally, I would wait to use my Frostbites card until the next fight, but I'm actually going to use it here just because it has a cooldown, and we want to make sure it gets rid, you know, the cooldown's ready. If you have to have it used for Dr. White, I'm not going to show you that strat here in this run, but I'm going to show you like the optimal one. But that's just something to kind of be aware of. I'm going to make sure it's ready, because if you don't have all three of your specials ready for Dr. White, you have to go get them ready. So now we're done with that fight. Pretty quick. Again, grab the key card, run over here. Now we'll switch to Ghost so we can sneak past this guy. Oops. And then you don't really have to worry about that guy. His activation range is pretty small. So again, we have nubbins, so we can use that here. We also have succums, which can help get a special meter full. This guy, we'd rather not have to use any specials if possible. You know, you're not always going to be lucky in that regard. If I were you, I would take this safe and just don't use any specials. Just kind of keep it how it is. Which is what I'm going to do in this run. I'm not going to show you the whole fight, but that's what I would do, is not use any specials just to make sure you're definitely good. If you don't have smoochies. If you have smoochies, use them as much as you want. If you have smoochies, you'll just use that card in the last fight, and even if you have 0 specials when that fight ends, you'll just have them all back, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, now we're done with that fight. We're gonna grab the hot dog costume, and we're eat again, and then normally this guy wouldn't be in the way. I just took a little bit of time to explain things, but you have to have the costume, or the hot dog costume, in your first slot. Otherwise this guy will not see you, and you'll just have Superhero and Jefferson. So I'll just go and skip to the end of the fight. Okay, now we're done with that fight. So go ahead and grab the clock and then bust out of here. So we're approaching the end of the run, so we're getting pretty close here. Now we're level 8, so this is going to be the level we're fighting Dr. White at. We used to do it at level 9, but with some route changes and optimization, we actually do it at level 8 now, which is a lot faster, and there's a whole mess with level 9 that I'm not going to go into, but level 8 is just better for a lot of reasons. So run up there, blah blah blah. You guys know what's going on. And then you hop in the time portal. Then that's where I would end the lap split. Talk to that guy once, go up the ladder. For whatever reason, you can't skip going up this ladder, or the other one for that matter. But from here, you'll switch to Wizard. You'll run across, and normally you need to follow the tiers to get up, you know, to get Oral to activate. Because right now he's not actually spawned in on the map. You have to activate him by locating the tiers somehow. So normally you'd want to go up here, but you need to kind of flash your flashlight. So I saw the tiers right there, and that's good enough. So It's very quick, so you'll just run over, you know, flash it for a second, and then just hop in and run up. If you didn't do it for long enough or correctly enough for whatever reason, you know, he won't be up here, but he's here. Then switch to the Pharaoh costume. Talk to Oral. And then similar to the top of the jazz club, we're gonna just kind of hold on to the right side and... Oh, I missed it. Okay, well, you can do what you would do in the jazz club. You know, how up here, how you fell across. But just watch my PB. I'm pretty sure I get it there. But I also like to point out, look in this bottom right corner here as we go through the portal. It's a fun little Easter egg. Just continue to watch where that kid was. He's dead. He died. Isn't that fun? Okay, we're very nearly done with the run. We've got to run through the warehouse, the top secret warehouse. Oops. And then find Dr. White. So the way these work is you talk to the house, and then you have to hit every single one of them. So you can't just go to like the 3 houses that you get the pieces from. You actually have to go to every house, and you have to hit every robot. You can't, again, you also just can't hit 3 robots. It's kind of weird, but you have to go to all of them, hit all of them. So I usually will mash the cutscenes, and then I'll spam X until I hear it get hit, and then I'll keep moving on. Otherwise, it's too easy to move before you actually hit it. The timing's not too difficult. You'll kind of get it at some point. Oop, I missed one. And then now you've got the last costume piece, and you'll run down here and grab the costume pattern. And then grab the talisman, and we got one more thing to do, and that's fight Dr. White. So run down here, and this is when I would end the split, when this cutscene starts. So normally, in the optimal strats, you'd have peepers and jellybeaks. Jellybeaks is probably the more important one, but I'm gonna go ahead and just show you the optimal strats. So I'm actually gonna just use one of my practice files, which I very much recommend you using before you fight Dr. White for the first time. But you want to make sure you follow my steps exactly. I cannot stress enough. You mess up one thing, you lose the fight, probably. So I'm going to go and just cut forward to when I've gone to a practice file. Okay, now I'm here in the practice save, so I'll go and explain the setup. You want to have Pumpkin first, then a superhero, and then Jefferson. Very important. If the order is off, then again, like I said, everything's got to be exactly right. So we're gonna go move over to the right. We have Sour Dumps as the first card, Peepers is the second, and Jellybeaks is the third. Now, if you don't get Peepers in the run, I will say this now, you can just use Nubbins, and Nubbins does the exact same. You'll just use it in the exact same spots. It does pretty much the same thing, but it does a little less damage. If you don't get Jellybeaks, then the route is a bit different, which I have written down somewhere, but I'd honestly need to go find it. So I would just, you know, if you don't get Jellybeaks, then oh well, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know how to help you with that. You know, maybe message me or something, and I can get you my notes, but I don't have that off the top of my head right now. But we'll just ignore that. Again, if you don't have Peepers, you can use Nubbins instead, as long as you didn't use it in the lab. So here we go. Time to start the fight. He might be in the way here. Yeah, because I took too long to explain. So again, make sure it's this setup, and we'll go ahead and start the fight. So there's no RNG. Anything that goes wrong is completely user error. So if something messes up, then that was on you, not on the game. So Pumpkin's gonna use his special right away. Then we're gonna have Superhero use Peepers on Jefferson. And then while we're still focusing on Dr. White, we're gonna use our special. And then take another hit here. And then we're going to use Pumpkin to attack one of the picks. It doesn't matter. But he's going to attack one. And then we're going to have Superhero use her special on that same pick that Pumpkin just hit. And then Jefferson's going to attack this pick. If you get an amazing, is okay. I guess it's dead in one hit anyway. So now it's a little bit of setup. So we're going to use Sour Dumps. Make sure you use Sour Dumps first before Jelly Beaks, because if you use Jelly Beaks and then Sour Dumps, you won't have another Sour Dump. So use Sour Dumps first here. And then we're going to use Jelly Beaks. And then as Jefferson, we're going to use our special. Now, we don't have the peepers, so no extra damage, but we're going to go just use it here, or else we wouldn't end up using it. So kind of just spam through this. Now this section's very important. If the blasters are left with any health, they will hit you and deal a lot of damage, and also you won't be able to deal as much damage. And so we want to make sure we focus on getting those guys out first. So use your special here to cut their health in half. Use the other special with Superhero. That'll take out one, and then Jefferson will finish off the other. So pretty quick fight here. We're almost done. So now we're going to use Sour Dumps again. And then we're going to use Peepers on Jefferson again. And then he's going to use his special again. And then we almost home free. So again, if anything goes wrong, you probably just didn't follow the steps. So I kind of just make sure you do everything in the correct order and all that. So use your special here. And then one more special. And then fight's over. So timing for the run ends on the fade out here, so make sure you're mashing to skip through everything, and then that would be time. I don't know what the actual time's gonna end up being on this tutorial. Probably like an hour and a half, maybe. I edited the first half that I recorded yesterday. It was like 35 minutes, and that wasn't even like the halfway point. So probably won't be an hour and a half. Probably be like an hour 15, hour 20. But regardless, that's the tutorial. So in the description, I'm going to have a link to the Discord. If you're not in the Discord already, make sure you join that. It's just nice to be able to access the resources and stuff, ask questions, stuff like that. And two, I know personally, if you're starting to run the game, I would love to see you do your first runs. So if you stream it, I would totally be there. Help you along the way. I also, I'd be willing to chat in VC. I love this game so much, and I love to see people speedrun it. So anything I can do to help people out and make it as easy as possible for them, I'm totally down for. So, send me a DM. If you need any help, ask in the server, preferably. But if you don't want to do that, you can DM me. Ask in the server. There's other people that'll help you too. We're very supportive community. There's not a lot of us, but we do love the game. So again, have any questions, let me know. Make sure you join the Discord, and I think that's all I got for you. So if I have any other videos like tutorials and stuff, I'll link them in the description that I forgot to mention. I think I mentioned everything along the way, but in case I don't, that'll be at the description. There's also timestamps for all the splits and stuff if you want a specific section that maybe you're struggling with. But yeah, my name is BoJimm, and this is my Castle Quest 2 Any% tutorial. Thank you very much.